Okay, so today we're going to dive into really a fascinating corner of internet culture, sometimes pretty explosive too.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking about No Jumper.
Exactly, no jumper. And its founder, Adam22. We've got a bunch of, information here, transcripts mostly.
Right from YouTube stuff, laying out the whole story.
Yeah, the rise, the controversies, all the legal things that have kind of defined it.
It's a complex picture.
For sure. So you're basically getting a shortcut here to understanding the dynamics, the different stories people tell.
And those big ethical questions that just keep coming up.
What's really wild is how, like, the lines between business and personal stuff and just public drama, they just blur completely.
It creates this whole unique universe, really unlike anything else.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into it. What really went down, behind the scenes and right there on camera?
Well, it's pretty compelling how No Jumper even started. It came out of a really specific moment.
Right. Hip hop media, the SoundCloud rap era.
Exactly. That whole time when artists were just, blowing up online, bypassing the old ways.
Yeah, no labels needed, just straight to the internet.
And No Jumper kind of grew right alongside that. Started as a blog, then boom, this media empire.
And the scale was just, wow, nearly 5 million subscribers eventually.
Huge. And some of those early interviews were massive.
Like the XXXTentacion one you mentioned, what was it, 22 million views?
Over 22 million, yeah. That really put No Jumper on the map for new artists. Made it the place to go.
And definitely helped Adam22 become, well, a multimillionaire.
For sure. And, his own view of it, his self-perception is kind of key here.
What do you mean?
Well, he talked about himself as a boss that put on these other bosses. He seemed genuinely proud when hosts built their own thing under him.
The kingmaker idea.
Exactly. That persona, that idea, it's really central to how he seemed to see his role, at least initially.
But that kingmaker thing seems like it didn't always mesh with reality, did it? Because we saw so many people leave. Major departures.
Yeah, a lot of discord there. AD and T-Rel, for example, big hosts.
Right. And from their side, it wasn't just about, like, Adam making fun of AD's interview habits, the four jokes thing.
No, they said it was way more than that. A ton of shit behind the scenes was the quote.
Felt like friendship was just being used for business deals.
Yeah, that was a big part of it. Feeling disrespected, stuff happening behind their backs.
Ugh.
They mentioned the timing of other things, too, like that Richard Spencer interview popping up around then.
Odd timing.
And they thought, look, if Adam's pushing us to do our own show, that should make him look good, not like we're suddenly competition.
So what's the disconnect? Why does Adam's view seem so different from theirs?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sources give you these two totally separate realities.
Okay, so what's Adam's take on AD and Tyrell leaving?
From his side, he felt T-Rel's reasons kept changing. He thought it was mainly about money, even though T-Rel had said he'd work for free.
Yeah.
And Adam's point was, usually if you want a raise, you got to ask for it.
Makes sense.
He also brought up times he'd helped T-Rel out financially, like donating when his store flooded.
Right.
So Adam seems to believe T-Rel left mostly out of loyalty to AD, not because Adam himself disrespected him.
So it's like that classic clash. Early days, everyone's friends, doing stuff online. Then it gets big, becomes a business.
Exactly. And those informal vibes just crash against the hard reality of contracts and money and expectations.
Yeah.
Leads to these really public, messy splits over things that started personal.
And then there was House Phone, another key figure who left.
Right, another long timer. His view was different again.
He thought Adam had tunnel vision about himself.
Yeah. He gave Adam credit for being smart business-wise, absolutely. But he called him miserable and judgmental.
Ouch. What else?
He pointed out hypocrisy, like Adam judging his drug use when Adam had, his own past with drugs. Apparently even doing it with House Phone and paying.
Wow, okay.
Ultimately, House Phone kind of saw leaving as a good thing, a blessing in disguise. Said it pushed him to focus on his clothing brand.
But interestingly, he didn't seem to hate Adam. Said it was more about content than real friendship.
Exactly. He acknowledged that their relationship served the content. It wasn't like a deep personal bond. He did admit missing the easy part, though.
The cushion of no jumper, just showing up.
Yeah, just rolling in and talking without the pressure of running everything yourself.
So you see this theme again and again, right? This idea of loyalty clashing with just pure business.
It's a constant tension. And it gets magnified in this online world where your personality is your brand or part of it. So when business decisions feel like personal betrayals.
It hits harder.
Much harder. And Lush leaving fits this pattern, too.
What was his story?
He felt betrayed over stuff Adam shared from a private Discord chat. Something about podcast schedules changing. And again, that comment about AD's same four jokes. Lush said Adam repeated it verbatim.
Oof, just messy.
Very. That loyalty versus business thing seems like the core friction point for so many of these exits.
And this tension, it didn't just cause internal drama, right? It really bled into the type of content No Jumper was making, pushing boundaries in ways that a lot of people found really troubling.
Oh, absolutely. The content itself became a major point of controversy.
Let's talk about plug talk, that whole situation.
Right. So this was Adam's wife, Lena the Plug, having sex on camera with another performer, Jason Loveth.
Yeah.
Basically as No Jumper content.
Yeah, I remember that. The reactions were extreme, either marketing genius because it got so much attention
Or a degrading spectacle. There wasn't much middle ground.
And Adam totally leaned into the controversy, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Capitalized on the viral buzz. Even got into a public spat online with Jason Love about interviews afterward.
And said he blacklisted him from my wife's vagina for a TikTok that got millions of views.
Yep, that was the quote. Turned the whole thing into even more content. 5 million views on that TikTok alone, apparently.
It's a strategy. But then things got into even more ethically murky territory.
Definitely. Which brings us to the whole issue of monetizing what critics call black trauma and gang culture.
The Pop Smoke interview being a prime example.
Exactly. Adam interviewed a minor, someone allegedly involved in the murder of the rapper Pop Smoke.
And reportedly paid him for it.
That was a report, yes. And the backlash was intense. People saying it showed no type of morals, that it was profiting off of black trauma.
And setting a bad precedent, right?
Right.
Giving a platform, maybe even clout.
To people involved in serious violence,
Yeah.
Especially in this era where everyone's chasing viral fame or clout. Critics saw it as incredibly dangerous.
And it wasn't just that one time, was it? There was the FBG Cash interview, too.
Right. Similar criticism there. Interviewing him about his beefs, specifically mentioning his conflict with Lil Durk, again, seen by some as just monetizing real, ongoing, dangerous gang conflicts.
So how did Adam defend this kind of stuff? What was his justification?
Well, his defense basically is that he sees it as journalism.
Journalism.
Yeah. He argues he's just asking about themes that are already prominent in their music, the stuff they rap about.
Okay.
And he claims the artists benefit, too, from the promotion, helps their careers. He even said that actual gangs don't think the interview titles are out of line and that the critics are just being more sensitive.
That defense probably didn't sit well with everyone.
Not surprisingly, no. It led directly to those culture vulture accusations.
Right. Dame Dash called him that, and a racist. That's a serious charge.
Very serious. Culture vulture, implying he's profiting off black culture, hip-hop culture, without really understanding it or respecting it, maybe even harming it.
And others echoed that, saying he profits from black trauma without real connection.
Yeah, that was a common critique. Though you also had defenders saying, no, he just genuinely loves black culture, and he's providing opportunities.
And Adam's response to the culture vulture thing?
He basically dismissed it as dumb. Said he makes money by giving chances to, aspiring boxers and content creators, framing it purely as opportunity.
Okay, so this relentless push for edgy content, it didn't just cause arguments, it led to actual legal trouble, right? And this whole wild agent theory.
Yeah, the legal stuff is a whole other layer. Things got really serious. Multiple people associated with No Jumper got arrested.
Like Brick Baby, Loose Cannon, Big U, people connected to the LA street scene.
Exactly. All arrested in connection with a big RIC case. Racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations. Federal stuff.
And the connection to No Jumper was pretty direct.
Startlingly direct, according to some reports. Allegations that over 40% of the indictment cites No Jumper directly.
Wow, 40%.
Yeah, and that's what fueled those theories that maybe Adam22 was like an informant, an agent, planted there to get people to incriminate themselves on camera for the feds.
That's a heavy accusation. Did anyone close to the situation suggest that?
Loose Cannon's brother seemed to imply something along those lines. Said Loose Cannon's constant need to record everything, chase fame, basically led to his legal problems.
So what did Adam say about being an agent?
He completely denied it, vehemently. Said, look, I put people in position, I give them jobs, help them make legal money.
Okay.
His argument was that these guys got arrested for things they were already doing, stuff that had nothing to do with the podcast itself, that No Jumper was actually the antidote, giving them a way out.
A antidote.
That was his word. He also made a comment about the brick experiment was not really in the red, up until this time period, maybe implying No Jumper wasn't just exploiting them financially before the arrest.
But others weren't buying that. Whack 100 had a theory.
Yeah, Whack 100 and some others floated the idea that, well, if the feds aren't raiding No Jumper despite all this, maybe it's because they see it as useful, an asset.
A place where gang members basically tell on themselves.
That was the theory, a really stark contrast to Adam's antidote claim.
And there were other legal incidents involving guests, too, right?
Almighty Suspect.
Yeah, that was another one. Almighty Suspect, a rapper often on the show, got jailed after a fight on No Jumper.
They spat on someone, Brandon, and pulled a knife. Allegedly pulled a knife, yeah. And the really risky part was, he already had another case looming over his head. Doing that on camera was not smart.
Did Adam comment on that?
He expressed some sympathy, but also kind of played dumb about suspect being in PC, protective custody. Even though other people insisted Adam knows everything, he doesn't tune out.
Raises questions about platform responsibility again.
For sure. And all this constantly bumps up against this snitching debate, which is huge in these circles.
How does Adam navigate that, given he works with police sometimes?
He's very pragmatic about it. Basically said he'll do whatever I got to do to stay on good terms with the police department.
Meaning hand over tapes if needed.
Yeah, if something violent happened in his building, he said he'd provide the tapes. And he added he'd feel resentful of you for putting me in this fucking position in the first place.
Wow. Blunt.
Very. And he gave that infamous advice, don't kill in front of no white people at a white establishment because they ain't F to keep it G.
Meaning white people or establishments won't follow the street code of silence.
Essentially, yeah. Which is obviously the total opposite of the no snitching code many of his hosts talked about adhering to.
Man, the contradictions are wild. And speaking of violence, there was that incident with King Pill confronting Adam.
Oh yeah, that was intense. It started on a podcast. Another guest, Anne Hefe, basically called out King Pill, marked him out for removing gang disses from a song, exposed him as fake.
Okay, so tensions were already high.
Right. Then after the show, King Pill, supposedly high on shrooms, confronts Adam really aggressively, demanding $200 for being on the show.
Just $200. And it got physical.
Yeah, apparently King Pill pushed Adam, and then King Pill's friends had to step in.
That sounds incredibly dangerous. What did Adam say he was thinking?
He said his internal thought was, if he punches me, I'm pulling out and I'm going to start shooting at him.
Whoa.
Yeah. And another commentator, Poetic Flacco, had apparently been warning Adam about King Pill for a long time, calling him a buster, a J-cat, a smoker, basically unreliable trouble.
And Flacco saw this as Adam's own doing. Kind of. Flacco pointed out Adam's habit of finding random gangbangers and trying to make them famous. Said Adam had big plans for King Pill, and he blew it all over $200.
Just highlights the volatility of mixing street life and content creation like that.
Absolutely. It's a constant tightrope walk. Which brings us to how conflicts were often handled, blurring lines between personal issues and public entertainment.
Like the argument with Ruga.
Exactly. That was a prime example. Adam directly provoked Ruga, who's a rapper,
How?
by quoting a diss lyric from King Von Ruga's rival that made light of Ruga's friend being shot in the head.
Oh, man, that's crossing a line.
You think so? It blew up into a huge argument. Ruga got kicked out.
But then there was a weird twist, right?
Yeah, super weird. Adam admitted later he edited the audio to make it sound like Ruga called him a handsome guy as a joke.
Okay.
But even stranger, Ruga's artists who were with him actually stayed after Ruga left and finished their interview. Adam said he appreciated that.
That is a very strange dynamic. Shows the weird push and pull in that world.
It really does. And it all comes back to this relentless chase for views, for viral moments.
Right. Creators pushing boundaries, maybe oversharing personal stuff, doing provocative things just to get attention.
Exactly. The platform itself almost encourages people to talk about sensitive things, even incriminating things, because it makes for compelling content.
But there's a real cost to that, isn't there, for the people involved?
With huge costs. We've seen it repeatedly with No Jumper affiliates.
Yeah.
Seeking fame, getting caught up, and then facing serious legal trouble, damaged reputations. Sometimes jail time seems directly linked to their appearances or actions on the platform.
It's the price of chasing clout, I guess.
It really seems to be, yeah. A stark illustration of that.
So wrapping this all up, what's the takeaway for you, the listener? I mean, this whole story of No Jumper Adam22, it's just this powerful, kind of messy example of how digital media works now.
Totally. It's chaotic. You go from these groundbreaking interviews to really controversial content, these shocking legal dramas. It's just constant tension.
Tension between what? Growing the business, being responsible, and just feeding that beast, that need for viral content.
Exactly. And you see how fuzzy the lines get between real relationships and just making strategic content. And people get hurt. There are real consequences.
So connecting this outwards, thinking bigger picture, it really makes you ask, right? In this age where clout is like currency and your whole life can become a public show, how do you balance the entertainment you get from something against the ethics behind it?
That's the critical question. Where do you draw the line, personally?
And maybe also, how should creators handle this power, the power of giving someone a platform, especially when their real life involves trauma or violence or serious legal risks?
Yeah, what's the responsibility there? It's something this deep dive really leaves you thinking about. Where's the line? And ultimately, who pays the price when you go all in just for the algorithm?
Yes. Only thing that I'm worried about, punch you one of these pussy ass niggas in they mouth. Then they film and they'll upload it. Suckers do anything for that clout. They'll trick you out of your position if you ain't gained up and you ain't here watching out. Internet bloggers, internet gangsters, who the snitches? I can't tell. On the dead homies and enemies podcast, the only podcast that I know won't tell. But I ain't tripping, I just pay attention to my own little business and I get the smell. I'm in another state, making another plate. Big plat place on my state. A plush hotel, just counting mail. I do this shit and I do it